Hello and welcome. Imagine you've spent the past 4 days preparing a highly important presentation for one of your key clients. You've created 45 sophisticated slides and you're about to turn on the projector when the client says, "To heck with the slides, just give it to me straight." Jürgen, how would you react?
Panic, or most people, they're a little bit off balance because they put so much work in it, hard work, they're dissatisfied, disappointed, so they become nervous.
Completely agree. Let me rephrase that. How should one act?
By means of contingency planning. That is, you expect the unexpected.
Okay.
And there are always three areas that are more or less unexpected. It's number one, the surroundings, like for example the room, the lighting, all those things. The second bit is time management. And third, very important, the human factor, which can be you, your client, or a big audience.
So how do I do this?
By asking what-if questions and finding the answers, which are quite simple then. I'll give you an example. You could say, what do I do if the projector breaks down? And then you say, quite simple, I present without the slides or with a flip chart.
Okay, so I prepare by asking myself what-if questions, and then I create a plan B for each of these scenarios.
Exactly.
So Jürgen, what are, in your experience, the most common mishaps that we face?
It's usually that people can't handle the technology, which is usually the laptop, the beamer, or it's the internet access. So please prepare that, double check before the presentation.
Great tip, yes. With regard to time management, which was your second point in contingency planning, what are the most common mishaps here?
Sorry to say, I know it's a no-brainer, but don't be late. For two reasons. First of all, it's not polite. And secondly, you put yourself under unnecessary stress. We don't need that.
True.
Okay, and the second part is also that you shouldn't run over time. So when you present, make sure you are in time. Because research has shown that many people want to be in control of time, also the audience. And if you are late, then they don't think you have the confidence you need.
Okay. What I've experienced so far, quite commonly, is that a client arrives 30 minutes late and says, "I've only got half the time planned." How do I deal with these types of situations?
Then there's a nice model which is called the 3-in-1P.
3-in-1P?
3-in-1P. 3-in-1 presentation. You have prepared your normal presentation anyway. Now you should have three versions of that. Number one is the core. It's like in a circle. First one, the core, where you have the core sentences, which is a little bit like the elevator pitch. Right, 2 to 3 minutes, no longer than that. The second part is half the amount of the presentation. So if you have a 20-minute presentation, it would be 10 minutes in the middle part. And finally, you do the real presentation, 20 minutes, the full hog. If you have those three versions, you also can be cool and confident when you present.
That's a great way to manage time, not bad. Thinking about the third aspect you mentioned, which was the human factor. People always expect us to have a lot of confidence when dealing with difficult situations or difficult people.
Absolutely, and you can acquire that also with practice. But what we have to do is distinguish first, what is it that is difficult or unexpected? And it's usually the human behavior or their questions.
Okay, how do I go about with these kinds of questions?
You should do it in three ways. First of all, what you should do is, again, rehearse with a sparring mate. Go through the questions and, of course, find the answers. Right. Then the second part is really look forward to answering those questions because it's a golden business opportunity. You can build trust in that way. And finally, which I also think is very important, is always remain polite, fair, and friendly.
Okay. Having a look at some of these typical examples that we face. Someone interrupts you while you're giving the presentation and asks questions. How should I deal with this?
Give the answer immediately. Never stall a question, give the answer. It shows they're interested.
Okay, what if this continues to happen and you feel that the presentation flow is being interrupted?
You can avoid that beforehand. So before the presentation, you ask your client, for example, is it okay that we can ask questions after the presentation? The reason is I have a certain logic sequence in my presentation. Normally, they agree.
Okay, assuming we've achieved that and we're in the final part with the Q&A at the end of the presentation, what if there's a question which I don't know the answer to?
Is it because you don't understand the question?
Yes, assuming so. What if I don't understand what the person means?
Because they're unclear. Well, don't answer the question. What you should do is use a very powerful tool, that is play the ball back and ask, what exactly do you mean? That usually helps by clarifying.
Okay. Assuming that it's not about not understanding the question, but not knowing the answer.
Well, then you should prepare better, which of course you are as a consultant. But if you don't know the answer, don't answer. I mean, don't beat about the bush. It's okay not to know everything. But tell them that you're going to find the answer and send it to them later.
How do I stay calm in a situation like this when someone verbally attacks me?
Oh, if there is an attack, the best I can recommend is breathe in, breathe out, and win time. And while you're doing it, ask, why on earth is this someone asking that question? What's the intent behind the content? Why do they do that? That's the first thing to do.
The breathing exercise is a good idea, but it won't solve my problem entirely. I still have to answer the question.
Exactly.
No matter how critical it is.
No, but it keeps you calm, and then you're able to answer the question in a twofold way. What you have to do is you have to distinguish between form and content.
Okay.
So if somebody really attacks you, as you said, what you have to do is say, okay, let's answer that question in two ways. First, concerning the form, and secondly, the content. With regard to the form, I don't think that we are reaching a common goal here. And with regard to content, I think our method is tried and tested, etc., etc., etc. That way, you also raise the conversation back to a content level.
Speaking about content, bringing this session back to a content level, how would you briefly summarize?
The whole of this session, I would say, always hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Very wise words. With this inspiration, we wish you a very successful presentation.